Bible study. We've talked about Bible study from different perspectives. I want to talk about some tools today, and we're going to go a little further. We already looked at a concordance and mentioned a topical Bible as well. So I'm going to take that a step further today, and hopefully this camera setup will be valuable to us. This is another topical Bible. I may have covered it before. This is Nave's topical Bible. And if you look at that again, there's just a topic that is given, like oak. This is oath right here. And it will just give you topics under the topic. Under oath, it says a solemn qualification used in solemnizing covenants between Abraham and the king of Sodom, and then it gives the reference. And so it goes through and gives just a quick little reference and then the passage of scripture. So from a topical perspective, that's a benefit to you. So Nave's topical Bible. I also have Baker's topical Bible. I've got Monzer's topical Bible as well. So those are good tools to use. Very little, if any, commentary, just the facts. Some of you that may be a little older can remember Dragnet and remember the one officer says, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. That's really where you want to begin, because the more you stretch into some of the commentary, then of course, then you get people that have done their studies and then they've filtered out certain things that maybe you're not aware they filtered out. So the further you go into commentaries, some help can be there, but also some absence of material, if I can say it that way. We're talking about word studies, Vine's. This is Vine's Expository Dictionary of the Old and New Testament. And again, in this particular book, it'll give you the word. Here we have the word for grave, adjective, semnos. And then it gives just a little bit of commentary and the references, but it gives you the definitions and how it's used. It's a tool that I would recommend that you have, Vine's Expository Dictionary. We're talking about dictionaries. I have here the New Bible Dictionary, edited by J.D. Douglas. When you're looking at a Bible dictionary, as you note here, let me turn the page a little bit, get a little different entrance. Okay, so we have Hosea, the book of Hosea right here. So in the book of Hosea, what he does in this is it gives you the outline of the contents of Hosea, then the authorship and date, circumstance and settings, Hosea distinctive message, and then it goes through the book in this particular dictionary. Again, now you're talking about somebody that studied the book, looked at it, and they're evaluating the materials. Also in this volume, you'll have things like Lubim, okay, a location, and it tells you where it's located. Here, this is interesting. It has the word Lucifer, okay? And it says this was the Latin name for the planet Venus. And so it goes on and talks about that. And then it makes application, is applied tauntingly as a title for the king of Babylon, who in his glory and pomp had set himself among the gods. And that has reference to the book of Isaiah. So there he did a good job. That's Isaiah 14, verse 12. Now today, when you talk about Lucifer, people are going to get all sorts of ideas and they equate it with the devil. This Bible dictionary does a good job in this and noting that Isaiah really is referencing the king of Babylon. When you look at Isaiah 13 and 14, you see that. Bible dictionary. Here's one I just picked up. I've not evaluated this one yet. I've heard people talk about it. I was fortunate to get this one. It's the Interpreter's Dictionary of the Bible, and I'm not recommending it yet, but it's just an illustration. As you can see, it goes much further in depth. The articles are longer. This is the Interpreter's Dictionary. Then you go to the encyclopedia set. Now here, this is the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. We often refer to this as the ISBE, keeping in mind that, again, basically what you have is the product of people's research and you're having somewhat of a commentary. Generally, these are regarded as more scholarly. However, one encyclopedia to another can be more valuable, more dependable. The International Standard Bible Encyclopedia is a known encyclopedia, and it's worth referring to. The Zondervan Pictorial Bible Encyclopedia, I do not have it in my library. I've used it several times. It has some good, valuable information, particularly if you're talking about people and places and things like that, and some of the culture, some of the history of those locations that is more of a secular historical study. It will give you some of that. Again, keep in mind, at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. So with encyclopedias, compare 2 or 3. And when 2 or 3 totally agree on something, or 4 or 5, you can have a growing confidence that that is in fact what we understand to be true. Wherever there are differences, then evaluate what is that difference and what is the evidence for the difference in each of those items. And there's where we have to use the old intellect, the old noodle, we say, and work through those things. Now, other areas can help us. Even secular historical books at times can be of help, but be careful on those because they have a wide range. But concerning, a lot of the geography, a lot of the secular history and stuff, then certainly the secular historical books can be of value. I've got a little couch here. It's a hide-a-bed for guests, so it's hiding one of my Cadillacs, okay? 2 of my Cadillacs, actually. I have the McClintock and Strong Encyclopedia, so when I use it, I just pull this out, grab the book I need, and I've got it. It is bigger and more exhaustive than the ISBE or the Zondervan's Pictorial. That's what I call the Cadillac, the grandfather edition, we might say. I also have the Catholic Encyclopedia, which was published in 1909. What's interesting about that is if you want to know the history of certain things ecclesiastical, it often does a pretty good job. Now, one thing about the Catholic Encyclopedia, with the Catholics and Catholicism, they believe that the Pope has the authority to make changes, and their councils make changes. I disagree with that. They don't have the power to do that, not according to the Bible. However, because they believe that's acceptable, they actually do a pretty good job of telling you how things came through history. They'll tell you when the Pope and when the council and which council made a decision concerning various things. So it can be of use historically in several fashions. And again, the scholarship seems to be good, the best of my understanding, but it is the Catholic Encyclopedia. My edition is the 1909 edition. Now, there are specialty books, certainly, that we could understand and recognize. Coming over here. I've got 2 items here that I think can be valuable. This is the Baker's Bible Atlas. This is one that I bought about 40-some years ago. And it really follows the biblical record from Genesis following and talks about the places and gives you information about the places. Not super in-depth, but yet very valuable information. Then I picked up this when I was doing my work in history, A Guide to the Ancient World by Michael Grant. Michael Grant is a recognized authority in ancient history. And this, of course, as you can tell, it is encyclopedic. It has a significant amount of information from the secular history standpoint. But yet, it's also valuable when we talk about some of the biblical references. For instance, I did a series on Colossians lately, the book of Colossians. Actually, I'm in the middle of that still. And at the end of Colossians, it talks about the church at Laodicea. Well, in this book, Michael Grant goes through and talks about Laodicea, talks about its location, talks about its history, talks about its importance in various areas. So this book can also be of benefit. It's more of a specific book. that you might say. Commentaries. You can see I've got several commentaries here. A commentary really is only as good as the commentator. So when you're looking at commentaries, a person really needs to understand what is the bias of that particular commentator. Now, sometimes you'll need to do a encyclopedia search, and there's where some of the Bible encyclopedias at times can be helpful. Sometimes just a general encyclopedia can be helpful on those. The preface to the book or other references can help you understand what is the background of this individual. It's interesting too that when we're talking about commentaries, that each one has a different quality in my judgment. If I'm reading a commentary, here's kind of the way I approach it. It's like I meet a guy on the street and look at that person and say, "Hey, Bob, I was reading through the book of Colossians the other day, and I was interested to note in the book of Colossians this particular phrase. What do you think about that phrase?" So I listened to it, and I evaluated the person on the street. Now, if I'm talking to somebody on the street that I know has no biblical background, then, it's going to be interesting to see what they have to say, but, limited interest, limited value. If I'm speaking to somebody that has been a student of the Bible all of their life and a serious student of the Bible, I'm going to give much more attention to what they say. But here's the key to a commentary and the man on the street, you might say. Okay, what do you think about this? They tell you what they think. And then they tell you why they think it. Anybody can give their opinion. But why have they reached that opinion? What is their reasoning process? And were there any sources that they used that might be valuable to me as well to know where they went? So footnotes, some sort of referencing through the material so that I know where they got their material, and also with their reasoning with the text. I'm interested to know that. How do they come to conclusion from the text? Do they just pick that out? That's kind of like Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Jesus Christ who strengthens me. People have misapplied that text over and over and over again. When I look at a commentary, if they say, now what the Apostle Paul was doing in this particular case is he's talking about, as he noted in the text, he has learned to be content when he has very little or nothing, or when he has an abundance for his personal needs, and maybe those with him. So I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That is, in whatever circumstance I find myself, I can do what the Lord would have me to do. That's what he's talking about in that text. So how does a person reason with that? And that's our job too when we study the text. What does it say? And how do I know that's what it says? And what tools? If you take notes, which I hope you really do, and every time you study, if you take notes, if you use a reference, find some way to make that notation. Now, you don't have to do a full bibliographic reference as far as the author and the book and the publisher, etc. Especially if it's in your library, like it may be mine, I might just simply put down, Wallace, God's Prophetic Word, page 212. And that way I know exactly who, and I know which book, and I know which page number. And that's all I need for myself. And so as you take notes, you might want to do the same sort of thing. There are many other references too that you can use. There are specialty books that happen to hit specific topics, and I've got several, of course, in here. I've got, this is one I used many years ago, Hermeneutics by Dungan. This is a good book. I recommend this book. It's on how to study the Bible. So that's a specialty book. There are other specialty books. Oh, here's another one that I recommend. It's a study guide to greater Bible knowledge by Wayne Jackson. Very good. It's short. The chapters are easy to work through, but very valuable information on Bible study. I would encourage you to get this book and follow this book as well. So those are some of the specialties. Oh, a couple of other specialties real quick. Here's one that's called Studying Effectively. Again, it's by Wren and Larson, and it's got some very practical elements in it, how to study, general study, you might say. I've got some books on creation, evolution. I've got books on philosophy. Those have interest in various ways as you study and as you look at things. So my point is there are tools to help. Some tools, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, okay? Others going to give you commentaries, give you their conclusions. Be careful with that, be thorough with that, and understand where they're coming from as far as their background. Respect, but suspect. That's what I was taught in school, and that's been good for me through the years. If you know the author, and if you know what they stand for, you'll have a greater confidence, won't you? But just because you have the greater confidence does not mean they're always right. So use the noodle again and work through those things and study to make sure you understand what the will of God is. So again, in Bible study and the tools, these hopefully will help you in your study. These are some of the tools I've used in mine.